Hey guys, Gregory here. Today we're going to be talking about bar chords, what they are and why you need to learn them. So one of the first reasons we learn bar chords is that it shows us a way to take chords that we already know and move it up the neck to create new chords. So to explain this idea a bit further, let's take a look at how the neck works. If I were to play the low E string and then play the first fret on the low E string, I would have just gone up the musical alphabet from E to F. Second fret and I get F sharp, third fret G, G sharp, A, and so on. So notes move up as we move toward the body. Now I can do the same thing with a chord. If I take an A minor chord, if I had a way to move this A minor chord up by one fret, I would go from A minor to one note higher, A sharp minor. But the thing is, chords are a particular shape, and when moving these chords up, we need to move each note in that shape up. So as an example, if I were to take my three fingers here, which make an A minor, and just move these three fingers alone up by one fret, I would have actually only moved up 3 of the 5 notes of that A minor shape. And the 2 notes that haven't yet moved are the 2 open strings, the 5th string and the 1st string. So in order to move this shape up properly, we need to create what we call a bar chord. So I'm instead going to hold the A minor with my third pinky and middle finger, which is the A minor. And to get from A minor to A sharp minor, I'm going to move it up by 1 fret. But now my first finger is going to play the 2 strings that were once open. It's going to bar across these 5 strings here. And now I have actually moved up the entire chord by 1 fret, all 5 notes. So I went from A minor to A sharp minor. And I can keep going. So second fret, I get B minor, C minor on the third fret, C sharp minor, D minor, and so on. So now with this bar chord shape in my hand, I can play any minor chord that I want by simply moving the shape up and down the neck. Now, there's a particular thing about moving shapes. If I take a shape of a particular type, I'm only going to continue to get chords of that type. So by taking a minor chord shape like this A minor and moving it up, I'm going to continue to get minor chords. If I wanted more major chords, then I would have to take a major chord shape like E major and do the same thing. Create a bar chord out of it and then move it up and down the neck to create new major chords. So just to clarify, a bar chord is really just a way of holding chords, and it could be any chord type. We just call it a bar chord because the finger is in such a way that it's flat against maybe 2 or more strings. So let's just take a look at a couple more examples just to add a little bit more clarification. I'm going to take some common chord shapes that we know already and use them to create new chords. So I'm going to start with a C. I'll call it a C shape because I'm going to change it into a bar chord. And I'm going to use this shape to play a D major chord. So to get from C to D, we have to go up 2 frets. After C, we have C sharp and then D. So I'm going to hold the chord differently. And then this is still a C. Move it up by 1 fret at the bar. And I'm now on C sharp because I went from C 1 fret higher to C sharp. And then 1 more fret would get me to D. So this is a D major chord using a C shape. Let's play a G major chord using an E major shape. So we have an E major shape here. To get to G from E, we have to go up 3 frets. After E is F, F sharp, and then G. So I'm going to hold the E differently. I move it up by 1 fret at my first finger. So I've gone from E to F. 1 more would get me to F sharp. And on the 3rd fret, we have G. So this is a G major chord using an E shape. Alright, let's do 1 more. Let's try an F minor. So this is a D minor chord here. We can use this D minor chord to make an F minor. So to get from D to F, we need to go up 3 frets, sorry. So after D, we have D sharp, E, and F. So I'm going to hold this D minor a bit differently here. It's still a D minor. 1 fret higher at the bar, I have D sharp minor. Sorry, what am I doing? D sharp minor. 1 fret higher, I get E minor. And on the 3rd fret, I get F minor. So those are just a couple examples of using some shapes that we already know to create new chords. So although we can use one shape of any particular type to play more chords of that type, why bother to learn more than one shape of a particular type? Well, the main reason is it gives us less moving around to do on the fretboard. So say, for example, I wanted to play the chords G, C, and D using an E major shape. To get to G, I'd have to go to the 3rd fret, right? That gives me a G major chord. A C, I have to go all the way up to the 8th fret. And to play a D, I have to go up 2 frets higher to the 10th fret. So my hand would be moving like G, C, D. And that's quite a big jump. If I knew 2 shapes, if I also knew the A shape, I can play the E shape on the 3rd fret, the G on the 3rd fret rather, and I can use an A shape to play the C, which should only take me to the 3rd fret, because after A we get A sharp, B, C, the 3rd fret. And to get to D using the same A shape, I only need to go 2 frets higher, C, C sharp, D. So instead my G, C, D looks like this, G, C, D. And it's kind of all in one spot. So which shapes should we learn? I recommend learning at least 2 shapes of each type, and the shapes that I recommend are the E major shape, and the E minor shape, and the A major shape, and the A minor shape. Those 4 shapes should be enough to get you going for quite a while. So before getting into all 4 shapes, let's talk a little bit about the technique of playing any bar chord. So when it comes to the bar, our hand is simply out like this in terms of the wrist. The hand and the wrist here, it's not bent. We don't want to bend it too much. And we're just really just trying to make a U with this kind of straight-ish angle of the hand here. So on the guitar, it looks like this, right? We don't want the wrist to flex very much like that. It is very tempting to do that, but it will actually make it very hard to use these 3 fingers if we flex the wrist too much, and also it does put a lot of pressure on your wrist. So you want to kind of train your hand to be more or less straight, the forearm on your wrist, and we're really just using these 2 fingers to bend up in the shape of a U, kind of like that. Try not to flex the wrist, like this. Let's put that first part to practice. We're going to take this same shape that we were doing. We're going to make this U. Try not to flex the wrist too much. Try to keep it more or less straight. And we're going to put it on the 5th fret. All right? So the wrist is nice and straight. Also, try not to get your thumb too high, because if your thumb is too high, your first finger is going to bend a lot, and it's going to be hard to play the strings on the first, well, the first and the second string especially. Okay? So the thumb really shouldn't be any higher than the first finger. Okay? All right, so continuing, what we want to do is once we have the finger here, we really want to make sure that the angle of the finger is as straight as, let's say, the lines, the vertical lines on the fretboard. Really try to just get accustomed to angling your finger so that it is as straight as those lines. And to do that, you might want to use this movement of the hand once your finger is in contact. Once your fingers are in contact with the fretboard, try to really just line it up as straight as you can. The next thing we want to do is when we do have it lined up, keep it as close to the right side of the fret as you can. It may look like it's on top the fret marker, but what we're going to do next is kind of going to, get past that. And the next thing is we want to use the side of the finger. Let's say the left side of the finger if you're holding it this way. So my first finger right now is kind of on top of the line, but I'm actually going to tilt it. I was going to roll it a little bit to the side so that it presses down right behind the line. And the reason we want to use this side of the finger is because the front side of the finger is very soft, whereas the side of the finger is a bit harder, less tissue there, so it gives us a better grip in which to squeeze the strings. And then just practice those 2 things. Practice having your finger straight like the fret, and then rolling a little bit on the side. Give it a good squeeze. Make sure you want your thumb somewhat behind your first finger, maybe closer to your first finger. You definitely don't want it to have it too far away, because you get a lot of the strength of the squeeze from where your thumb is. So your thumb has to be somewhere in the middle of the bar chord, but for now, just get it closer to your first finger. Give it a squeeze and try your best to get as many strings as you can. Right now, I'm just aiming for 5 strings. Just squeeze and try to get as much out of it as you can. If you think you've done a good job, take your hand off, try again. line it up, come close to the fret, rolls on the side, watch your thumb, give it a good squeeze, and just keep doing that over and over. So we're going to move on now and attempt to play one of the bar chord shapes. We're going to try to play an A minor bar chord shape. We're kind of continuing from what we just did. We're going to take the first finger on the 5th fret. We want to cover 5 strings with this first finger. So we're going to put it there. Try to get it close to the metal line. Make sure it's straight like this. And then we'll roll it to the side a little bit more on the side of the finger. And once you have your hand in this position, especially once your wrist isn't dropping and your first finger is straight, it should be fairly easy to get these 3 fingers onto the fretboard now. It may take a little bit of time to get it there, but your fingers shouldn't have a problem reaching the strings. So we're going to make these 3 fingers into the shape of an A minor. So that would be the middle finger on the 2nd string, 3rd finger on the next fret, 4th string, and pinky finger right below that 3rd finger on the 3rd string, and then we're going to strum 5 strings. And if you're lucky enough, or you're just really talented on your first try, you're going to get the sound of a D minor chord, because this is an A minor shape on the 5th fret, which gives us a D minor. And if it didn't sound the way you like, just keep trying. It does take a while. The next 2 shapes we're going to tackle are the E major and the E minor shape bar chords. We're going to do it on the 5th fret as well. These 2 shapes cover 6 strings. So with the first finger, we want to have the bar covering 6 strings on the 5th fret. Keep it close to the metal line. Try to keep it as straight as that metal line there. Make sure the wrist isn't too low, the thumb isn't too high, right? And then also don't forget to roll the finger a little bit on the side. This helps a lot. And now with these 3 fingers, the 3rd, the middle, and the pinky finger, the middle, the 3rd, and the pinky finger, we're going to make an E major shape. So the middle finger goes on the 3rd string, the 3rd finger is on the next fret, the 7th fret, 5th string, and the pinky is right below it on the 4th string. Give it a good squeeze and strum. You may definitely not get them all to ring out on the first try if this is the first time you're playing it. It does tend to come after quite a bit of practice, but that is your E major shape on the 5th fret, which in actuality is an A major chord because it's an E major up by 5 notes, which gives us an A major chord. Okay, let's try the E minor bar chord shape now. We're going to do it on the 5th fret as well. So same thing, we're covering 6 strings with the first finger. 5th fret, make sure the first finger is straight, close to the fret line. Tilt a little bit to the side. Watch your wrist. And then with these 2 fingers, your 3rd finger and your pinky, we're going to make an E minor shape. So 3rd finger goes on the 7th fret, 5th string, and the pinky finger goes on the 7th fret, 4th string. Give it a good squeeze. You can also use your middle finger to help your first finger squeeze down that 5th fret, and then strum, try your best, and then that's it. We have an E minor shape bar chord. Okay, last of the 4 shapes, we're going to tackle now the A major shape. This one is the trickiest of them all because we're going to be doing 2 bars. We're going to be barring with the first finger and the 3rd finger. It is kind of crazy for a first time effort, but you do get the hang of it after time. So let's do it once again on the 5th fret. First finger on the 5th fret. Make sure the finger is straight, close to the fret line. Roll it to the side. And now the 3rd finger is going to go on the 7th fret. And we're going to put the 3rd finger on the 4th string, and we're going to just bend that finger back so it gets flat, just like that, onto the fretboard. Now this is only going to happen after your 3rd finger touches the fretboard. You can't just bend that knuckle mid-air. It has to touch first. So I would say let your 3rd finger go a little higher than the 4th string, and then you can bend it back. And it should lie flat on, we want it to lie flat and to cover 3 strings, the 4th string, 3rd, and the 2nd. It is a bit difficult to do, but you can get the hang of it. If you are having trouble to reach the 2nd string, you can use your pinky to help you just press that 2nd string. And the thing about this chord is we don't necessarily need to get the 1st string to ring out. In fact, we don't need to put a lot of pressure on the entire 1st finger either. We don't need to squeeze down the entire thing because this finger, although it is barring, it is really only playing 1 note, which is the 5th fret. The 5th string, sorry. The 3rd finger is actually doing most of the work here. So we only need to put pressure on the tip of the 1st finger, which is a good thing. And then these 3 fingers are playing the other 3 strings. The first string, we could try to avoid it by letting the first finger not press down as much down here. And just naturally, you might find that it doesn't ring out anyway. Just make sure not to press your 3rd finger all the way down so that we get this note. That gives us a different type of chord, which we may not want. So the 3rd finger should press down, and then it kind of curves back out. You can kind of see that it kind of curves back out a little bit. So we're really only playing 4 strings, the 5th to the 2nd string. Okay, so that is our A major shape bar chord. Good luck. Just 2 things I want to add in that I kind of forgot. When it comes to playing both A shapes, the A minor shape and the A major shape, it would be a great idea, although the first finger is covering 5 strings, to let the top of the finger touch the bottom of the 6th string. And what that does is it mutes the 6th string, so that if we were to just strum, we don't get the sound of the 6th string, which is what we want in most cases. And with the A major shape bar chord, a good idea to help your 3rd finger get a good press onto the strings is to let the right side of your palm come forward a little bit, the right side, just your right side. Because if the hand is too far back, it would be hard to get this finger to bend like this, to put pressure on it. If the finger is too straight, it's really hard to press that finger. So let the right side of your palm come out a little bit, and it will actually allow this kink in your joint here so that you can really press down on the fretboard. So that's it for the video. I think we've covered all the basics. One other thing you may want to pay attention to is understanding how to move up the musical alphabet, move up and down, so that you would actually get comfortable finding new chords. So in other words, if you come across an E flat minor for whatever reason, we should have a fair idea how to find it. We can just take any minor chord shape we know, like A minor, and move up until we find an E flat minor. So if this is A minor, we get A sharp on the 1st fret, B, C, C sharp on the 4th, D on the 5th, and D sharp or E flat minor on the 6th fret. So it should be a lot less intimidating now when you come across chords like this. The next step would be finding a slightly faster way of finding chords on the fretboard. So in another video, I am going to explain a way of finding chords faster rather than counting them up one by one. It's kind of slow to do that, but it does kind of get you started at the beginning. But that's it for now. So if you did like the video, please like, share, and subscribe. It will help me out a lot. But until next time, later.